Hello, I'm Jay. I'm here with what's probably going to be the first of two videos for my Booktube Spin TBR. This is Booktube Spin number 6, where you, or in this case I, pick 20 books, and then Rick spins the wheel. Whatever number that lands upon, that's the book that you'll read for the next you'll have the next couple of 2 months to read. Rick does 2 spins, so I am coming up with 2 separate lists. The first list, which I'm going to do in this video, is graphic novels. This is Rick's suggestion of, hey, why not break things up a bit? A lot of us have just been doing novels or kind of thick tomes or whatever, something that we've been meaning to get along to. So why not break things up with something like graphic novels? You could do something else, poetry collections, you could do plays, you could do whatever. I thought, hey, okay, that sounds fun. Now, unlike print books, I don't actually have 20 unread graphic novels kicking around in my collection, but I've got a good hunk of graphic novels, and I figured, okay, this will be a chance to reread one of those graphic novels. So I've selected some. With that said, let's get on with this. I'm going to try and motor through this. I'm not going to dwell particularly, hopefully, on too much because I don't want to make a 20-minute video. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. So this is my public announcement of my graphic novel Booktube Spin list. Starting off with Jimmy Corrigan, the Adventures of Jimmy Corrigan, the Smartest Kid on Earth by Chris Ware. This is like one of these kind of big books in graphic novels. I found it incredibly depressing, but it is impressive in its formalism, in its grinding sadness of its main character. You would think with a thing like The Adventures of Jimmy Corrigan, it's like, no, this is depression literature, and I'll be interested to see in a reread if I have the same adverse reaction to it I did the first time. My next 3 books are me pressing down my thumb on the scale. They are all volumes of Castle Waiting, which is a fantasy story by Linda Medley. It is her big work, as of yet unfinished. I am supporting her on Patreon, where hopefully at some point she will be able to get back to it, and this series will be completed. I've got like her first publisher, Castle Waiting Volume 1 from Olio, and then there is Castle Waiting, which is sort of the first volume through Fantagraphic Books, and Volume 2 through Fantagraphic Books, which doesn't actually have her name on it, which has got a whole story in itself. Really beautiful work. Very kind of very understated. There's not gigantic battles or anything. This is very much people kind of getting on with their lives in this sort of a fantasy realm. You know, there's a horseman there, there's a little bird, but there's also just other sort of kind of, you know, people getting along with things. So yeah, if I get 2, 3, or 4, I'll just get to read all of the Castle Waiting. I think I've even got some of the standalone comics too, that'll give me a chance to actually talk about Castle Waiting on this channel. Number 5 is Calvin and Hobbes. I think this is the very first collection by Bill Watterson. I don't think I need to say too much about Calvin and Hobbes. There's Calvin, there's Hobbes. Boy and his stuffed tiger and their imaginative adventures. And this is one of these, just amazing work there. Next is a little Canadian content. David Collier. This is Just the Facts, a decade of comic essays. He is very much somebody who, Collier is someone who does very much nonfiction work, sort of little biographies of people, or his time in the military, Canadian military, stuff like that. Just, you know, really interesting kind of slices of life stuff. So that would be a really cool one to get to reread. Next, speaking of a biography, this is Louis Riel by Chester Brown. Louis Riel, Métis leader who was executed by the Canadian government for leading either what considered a revolt or an effort to get independence for Métis people. Really kind of one of these central figures in Canadian history, and this is Chester Brown's take on it. I've been reading more and more about Métis people. Chester Brown is not Métis himself, but I thought it would be interesting to kind of go back and look at that in light of further education that I've had. Chester Brown is another one of these great Canadian cartoonists. Next one is, let's get it out of its plastic wrap, is Eddie Campbell, who will show up on this list again, unsurprisingly. This is one of his sort of autobiographical comics. Alec is sort of a stand-in for the author, and I can't remember exactly which this one is. It's very much his slice of life as an artist, kind of struggling, very hard-bitten life of a cartoon artist. It is up there with poet for the amount of money and ease you'll get to rake in there. Not to mention all the backbreaking work. Next is a bit of kind of Japanese psychedelia, I guess, is what I would term it as. It's Pure Trance by Junko. And this is by, I've gotten off my numbers, number 9, Pure Trance by Junko Mizuno. She is, Japanese artist. Does really kind of, it's weirdly kind of cutesy pie, body horror, kind of just psychedelic. I just love looking at her work, and it would be interesting to go back to it after it being several years since I have done anything like that. Number 10 is The Chuckling Whatsit by Richard Sala. Richard Sala was someone who I think really came on the scene hard with this book. I think it's maybe been a little bit of diminishing returns, this is sort of what he does, kind of girl detective monsters, kind of B-movie sort of stuff. This is a horrible, the binding in this is just horrible and is separated and fallen apart, which is a shame, but but the art in it is quite stunning. It definitely has, I'll look at a lot of these works that I'm holding up. They're black and white, and there's a kind of, this is very much kind of wood cutting kind of thing to it, which I really do enjoy. Yes, and I said I was going to come back to Eddie Campbell. This is From Hell by Alan Moore, one of the big writers in comic genre. He did Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and this book, From Hell, which is his book on Jack the Ripper, and very much diving deep into the story, getting at it from maybe a much more ground level way. Has a brilliant comic essay at the end about all the various interpretations of Jack the Ripper. Even if you didn't read his story, the little essay in the back is very much the way. And again, it has that very kind of scratchy, kind of hand drawn feel. I don't know how to put it. I'm not very good at putting stuff like that, but the work, it's like it captures all the kind of the sootiness and blackness that Campbell is able to capture of Victorian London that is. This is a story told from, the wrong side of the tracks, very much so. And I'm running out of space here. Yes, let's think. Number 12 is from 20th Century 8-Ball by Daniel Clowes, best known for, I think, Ghost World, made into a movie. But this is more of a collection of the odds and ends that a cartoonist has to kind of come up with. It's like, oh, I've got a page I need to fill, and little one-off kind of gags or ideas or things like that. And this is sort of a collection of those. And sometimes it's interesting kind of what kind of a portrait you can get of a cartoonist in that. He does a very kind of a comedic thing of using the back and then kind of continuing a story here, which kind of incorporates, it incorporates the little Oh, that must be a little bit of modern art there. The little bar symbol. It gives the address of the publisher. It gives little blurbs, stuff like that. It's kind of funny kind of a gag base sort of thing. Number 13, I just did another Richard Sala Mad Night, which sort of illustrates very much with the Chuckling Whatsit of what Sala's obsession is, and that he sticks pretty close to that. So if you enjoy that, and I got a certain amount, I was collecting a lot of these, so but I thought, hey, it's been a while since I've actually revisited one of those. Maybe I should go back and see, am I completely tired of it, or is it like, oh, I'm charmed by this and I kind of like it. Yeah, there's one of the prototypical Sala girl detectives doing her thing, possibly going to be coming to a bad end, like that lady there. Next, I have a couple of books from Love and Rockets. This is kind of semi-old school now, independent comics, Love and Rockets, the Hernandez brothers. This is Flies on the Ceiling. This is Jamie Hernandez and his kind of storyline, very kind of a long-running storyline of community in, I think in Los Angeles. I would have to actually look it up. It's kind of notable in the sense that he doesn't hold your hand as you're going through this community. You sort of have to either know it or you don't, and you have to pick up on the kind of the clues as it goes along. I think sometimes I found it hard to distinguish one character from another one, and if you're not getting that hand holding, it can get kind of confusing. But I thought it would be interesting to go back. He is really a beautiful again, black and white artist of and vivid characters, even if sometimes I don't know who's who and stuff like that. Sort of really kind of there's a psychological depth to his work, which is it's interesting, and it's interesting how well he can succeed at that. And then I decided, if I'm going to do one Hernandez brother, I might as well have the other one, which is Gilbert Hernandez. And this is from Blood of Palomar, which is all about his series, which was happening, I think, kind of a fictional community across the border in I think Mexico. I can't even remember now. But Gilbert has much more of a kind of a little bit more of a kind of a cartoony sentiment, even though actually in this work with him working with in this community, his women are far more voluptuous than his brothers, but again has sort of it's much more kind of, I'd say, melodramatic in its case. There's a lot more murder and a lot more kind of heightened stuff. He's the more melodramatic of the two. So that would be equally as interesting to get that Hernandez brother. Next is Shadowlands. This is number 16, Shadowlands by Kim Deitch, who is very much interested in sort of kind of old-timey Hollywood, old-timey kind of animation history. There's very much a thing of, I don't think there's the cat in here. This one is all about the flying pig. What is this? Shadowland begins with a high-diving pig and ends with a rampaging elephant. And in between, it takes the reader on a wild ride through the 20th century, featuring the sleazy carnival owner, his unfortunate clown-faced offspring, the midget Q Pie, and the adorable ingenue movie star Molly O'Dare, which I think gives you a hint. And this very much kind of like, it's kind of, the carnival, the early Hollywood, that sort of thing. He is quite amazing for just the layout of his pages is quite amazing, and his kind of the precision of his artwork, which is just kind of quite kind of gorgeous stuff there. And then talking about obsession with the kind of the early 20th century, this is number 17 is Crazy and Ignazes, which is George Harriman. This is Love Letters in an Ancient Brick, 1927 through 1928. And he was a cartoonist of the age, but this is back when cartoons were giant full page things where the central gag is that you have that mouse hurtling a brick at the cat in each episode. But yeah, this shows you the real, like, this is back when you would have like six panels for each comic versus the one like little comic strip that we have today, which are now shrunk down and down and down and shrunk smaller and smaller. This is definitely kind of the older school of thing. That and like Winsor McKay, Dreamtimes and Nemo. That kind of the old timey kind of giant broadsheet comics, broadsheet newspapers where they're just gigantic and you could fill up a page with a cartoon. So that'd be a thing to kind of settle down and just sort of enjoy that. And Watterson would be the ones to go with. Number 18 is a real favorite of mine, which is I, Leonardo by Ralph Stedman, which is Ralph Stedman going through the life of Leonardo da Vinci. And I think at the beginning here it says Stedman traveled to Italy to stand in places where Leonardo stood, trying to imagine what it was like to occupy the mind that would never stop yearning to fly and inventing everything from the vocabulary of academic drawing to the submarine. Stedman started to paint Leonardo's inventions, then the scenes of their invention. Soon the inventor himself showed his face and began to demonstrate. And Stedman has this just sort of amazing kind of ink splattered kind of hyper expressive. He's best known for the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, his illustration of Hunter S. Thompson's work, which he actually did accompany him. But that face right there, that's Stedman. That is Stedman. And it was a work that I found kind of striking in how much it sunk me into at least Stedman's idea of Leonardo da Vinci. There's that face there is very much maybe a portrait of Stedman as much as it's a portrait of Leonardo. But quite the thing. And then number 19, I've got this work here, which is Art Spiegelman, who has been in the news lately for Mouse. But this is a work that he did in response to the 9/11, and indeed I have with it. This is a New Yorker, a copy of the New Yorker, which it seems black, but actually what it is it's you can't see it, but there are two towers. You can just vaguely see, if you're probably real time, the two towers, and it's in the shadow of no towers, which I think shows up better on this. I have no idea if it does, but very much harkening back to Herman. It's an amazing kind of thick pasteboard, and it's him doing his reaction to 9/11, but more a reaction to the hijacking of 9/11 for various political purposes. But he does, so I have to stand back, these broadsheet pages. So this is like the old time newspapers, and him telling the story of 9/11, him being in 9/11, rushing to get his child who was in day school at the time, and just how much it starts kind of going into the kind of like very kind of old timey kind of political cartoons. God, this is a book that's impossible to actually show on this. It's so gigantic. But his horror, his stress and anxiety that we're feeling, which unfortunately has not stopped and is just gone on to everything else that we can be horribly stressed about. But also kind of these kind of old printing at the end, he's just calling back to like how things were done in the old Hearst newspapers with old kind of racist cartoons, and a little bit of Nemo, a little Nemo in Slumbertime with, you know, very problematic representations of black people in these comics. But yeah, just this is one of these books that I think it's such a snapshot of that time, but it's funny how much that time reverberates to how just the constant anxiety and state that we're in now, the constant panic state that we can find ourselves in now. What's going to happen next with whatever that is going on. And then, not to completely end on a downer, here is Pre-Millennial Makeys by it's a comic collection of comic strips of Makeys by Tony Millionaire, done out in this kind of beautiful large thing where you can get a full comic strip of an alcoholic crow and a kind of a equally alcoholic ape, and very much kind of on ships, like very much kind of, you're a pirate on a ship kind of thing, you know, which I think indulges Tony Millionaire's obsession with sailing ships of a certain era. So that would, and it's very nihilistic and always has running at the bottom of it a tiny little strip at the bottom, which has nothing to do with the top one, which is usually quite obscene, which, you know, that's always a bonus point for something that is you know, supposed to be for all ages, family kind of entertainment. As like the Makeys are definitely not that. Yeah, so yeah, that is my list of 20 graphic novels, and in the next video, paperback books. But who knows, we'll see what spins. My list will be down below. Thank you, Rick. I really enjoy doing this. All right, more videos later. I've been Jay.